Alright, so this is the Anglo Saxon period, this is the Middle Ages, and so the church is everywhere. You know that from medieval medicine. Everyone is raised Christian, and the church, the organisation of the church, is incredibly powerful and was a constant feature of people's lives. You can't imagine what life was like back in 1066 without understanding how the church impacted their lives. So it was powerful. It had about 25% of all of the land in England, which made it hugely important and rich. Now, when we talk about the church, what we're talking about here is the institution, the organisation that runs religion in England. Now, just like how there was a hierarchy for how England was governed, king at the top, earls in their earldoms, shire reeves in shires, reeves in hundreds, there was also one for how the church was governed. At the top were the Archbishops of Canterbury and York, the two most important figures in the church. They ran religious affairs in the south and the north, and were on the Witan. Below them were the bishops, who ran smaller areas, and below them were priests, who were responsible for a single parish. We still have parish priests today, and this was who most people would encounter when they went to church. Ordinary people never really encountered bishops or archbishops and the like. There were also monasteries and abbeys, which we already know about. They had monks, nuns, friars, abbots, and they dedicated their lives to prayer. They cared for the sick, they copied books, they educated the young, and so on. They often became very wealthy because they had so much land which they grazed sheep on, and they sold the wool. Now, because the church was rich and powerful, they were very important to the king, and they were some of his most important advisors, helping him run the country, making sure that he was godly and doing his duty to protect the church. When a king was crowned, they were anointed by God. This means they were blessed with holy oil as a sign that they were chosen by God. And so from the start, the king and the church were closely linked. Now, in everyday life, though, that didn't really matter. It obviously mattered to the king, but for most people, their life was just about how to be a good Christian, how to live a good life, how to make sure their soul went to heaven and not to hell. This meant living free from sin. This meant listening to their priest. Okay, each village had a priest, and the church was the most important building in that village. It played a role in all parts of their life. God, for example, was blamed for sending disease. God was also thanked for healing the sick. God was blamed if crops failed, or he was thanked when they didn't. The church and the calendar of the church also marked the seasons and the changing of the year. So people marked holy days like Easter and Christmas, as well as saints' days, with feasts and games and celebrations. And in this way, the church was the centre of village life. And following its instructions, so you were a good Christian, was everything to the Anglo Saxon people.